Hello everyone, welcome, welcome. Welcome everyone. We're just going to wait for just a moment for people to start joining. Hello, welcome. I'm excited to show you guys what we're going to be creating today. We're going to be doing a galaxy background. It's going to be really, really fun. And we're going to be using this adorable lei. Hi, Dina. Hi, Joanne. So we're going to be using this adorable lei, Shoot for the Stars. She's available in the StampAnniething shop. She has this adorable little laser blaster sentiment that says Shoot for the Stars. And then love you to the moon and back. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Francis. Hi, Ebony. Welcome, everyone. Hi, Rhonda. Thanks, everyone, for joining me tonight. I'm super excited for us to be creating and having a really, really fun time. Let me work on my lighting here. Hi, Ann. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to go over the products we're going to use tonight so that you guys can have everything ready to go. We're going to be using the lei Shoot for the Stars stamp and her coordinating outline die. Hi, Ann. We're also going to be using this crater die. This one is one of my favorite dies. You can see it has this really fun main moon part, and then it has the overlay. You could use them by themselves or separately or together, and they make a really awesome layered moon or layered planet. We're going to be making it a planet today. I'm also going to be using the Slimline Basic Frames. If you guys don't have the Slimline Basic Frames yet and all of the coordinating frames, you definitely need to add those to your collection. They make making cards and scenes so, so easy. I'm also going to be using the brand new scene building stencils. This one here is actually the ocean beach one, I believe, but I'm going to be using it for planets and galaxy. So there's so many different options, and I love that it's slimline, so it will fit across our entire card. We don't have to shift the stencil while we are ink blending. I'm going to be using the Sparkle and Shine stencil with these fun stars and little hearts. And then last but not least, I'm going to be using the, the Cobblestone stencil. And this is going to give us some texture on our planet. And then I'm going to be using the Banner Frames dies. And I just have them here, but I'm going to be using this top one here. And I will link all that below too if Kevin doesn't before I do. And then of course the StampAnniething inks I'm going to be using tonight. I'm going to be using this one here is Shocking Pink. I'm going to be combining it with Distress inks. And I'm also going to be using, let me grab the other color, the Obsidian StampAnniething ink, and the bright yellow, which is going to be the Aspen Gold. So those three inks you're going to need. And also the blending brushes. These are also available in the shop. I'm going to be using this larger one. It makes for really nice, easy blending. I have a couple of those I'm going to be using that will help get into all the details of the stencils. And also some blending sponges I'm going to be using too. Hi Betty, welcome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First we are going to start with our card base, and then we will do coloring. I'm going to be coloring her up kind of like a space girl with kind of an alien girl, and she's going to have purple skin. My inspiration for today for coloring our little girl, my daughter has all of her little Barbies. You guys can see I have this little girl here. That's my daughter, so we're going to color her up very similar. You can see she has that really fun two-tone skin and fun bright hair. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do just different details like that and sparkles in her hair. Hi Tammy, hi Denise, welcome. Okay, so what we are going to do first is you're going to use that slimline die right here, Slimline Basic Frames, and I just cut it out of glitter black cardstock. And then I cut that again, the same die, from white watercolor papers. You guys know I love using the Canson watercolor paper because it lets you ink blend a lot of different layers without bubbling or warping, plus it's really nice and thick. So I cut one of those, another frame. I glued that outside frame to the glitter cardstock, so it makes it more sturdy. And then the inside we're going to be using to make our galaxy. So you can see it nests perfectly, but then also since we added that extra layer on top, this is a little bit of a raised edge. So it'll add just a little bit more dimension to our card. I also have this really fun kind of metallic paper. This came from a paper pack, I don't know, just an old one from my stash, but any kind of foiled paper would work great, or even another glittered cardstock. This one is almost like a pinkish purple. It kind of doesn't really show up as well in the camera, but it really does match our little girl that we're going to be coloring. So all I did is I just lined it up and I just added 1/8 of an inch around the outside frame, the biggest frame of our card. And then I cut a coordinating base, another 1/8 of an inch. So this is totally your preference. You can do 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, but all I did is just line it right up and then add it. So that's going to make our base, our lower card mat, and our outside card mat. And then I cut that planet, the crater die from that same watercolor paper, the bottom portion, and then that same metallic paper that we used, I cut the outside border, this little top detail. So it's that same pink foil. And then the banners, I cut the outside part of the banner in that foil, and then I stamped the shape for the stars, and then just inside of it, all I did is lined it up and washi taped it. That way you can make sure it lines up perfectly. You can see the center is cut out, so it's really easy to line up. But this is going to look really fun when we layer it on top. So we have all of those metallic accents. You could do this with gold foil. You could also do this with the new embossing powders. I almost did that, but I was trying to test making a spray with it, and it didn't quite work. I think I need to get a bigger spray bottle. But I was trying to make like glitzy spray with the embossing powders. I think I just need a thicker spray bottle. But we'll try that for next time if it works. Okay, so then we are going to get started on our galaxy. So you're just taking the inside card mat. I'm going to go ahead and just washi tape this down to the center. Oh, thank you, Kevin. I haven't even started. I just got it set up, but it's going to be really, really fun when we have it all put together. I'm going to add another couple pieces just so this doesn't move around on us. Really need to bring my magnetic mat back over here so then I can just magnet it down. Okay, so we are going to build up a galaxy, and to do that, first you need to add all of your bright colors, because in a galaxy, when you look at the pictures, you see, vibrant yellow, green, blue, and then of course the night sky. So we're going to start, let's see. We're going to start with our lightest color first, which is going to be yellow. I'm using Distress ink for this just to start, and then I'll build up the color. Oh, when are the banners going to be back in stock? I'm not sure. And do we know ETA on the banners? Whoops. Okay, so I'm using this first, Squeeze Lemonade Distress ink. And what I'm going to do is just start layering in some little circles of color. These are going to be kind of our galaxy pops of color throughout our night sky. And it doesn't really matter where you put them, but you do want to start from your lightest color to your darkest. So again, we're blending our yellow first, just small circular blends. And then I'm going to be doing a little bit of yellow up here in the corner. Now these galaxy backgrounds do take a lot of building the layers. It's going to look like, a little crazy at first, but once we start layering in layer over layer, you guys are going to see it's going to be like magic. It's going to look just like a night sky. Oh, thank you, Anne. So it looks like we have the banners back in stock. Anne is going to add them after the live. Okay, so I did yellow up here in the corner, yellow over here. I'm going to do another little pop of yellow here on this bottom corner, but not have it quite touch the edge. Okay, the crater is also in stock but not showing currently. Okay, so that will be added after the live too, I presume. Okay, so we have our first base colors of the squeezed lemonade. Now we're going to build up that color a little bit more. I'm going to be using the StampAnniething Aspen Gold. And all I'm going to do is add a little bit to the bottom edge of each of these little yellow areas to really start making these yellow portions pop. So again, I'm just blending, leaving the top edge with the distress and the bottom edge with that brighter yellow. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our next color in this lineup for our galaxy, which is going to be I'm going to do our pinks. So I'm going to be using first Worn Lipstick, Distress Oxide. And I'm just using another little blending sponge. And this is where we're going to start blending into some of this yellow. So right here, I'm going to be blending at the edge of this yellow section here. And it's okay if you get some of this as orange in the middle. That's actually what you want. And if I get like a little bit of a line there, I can just go right over with my yellow and blend that out. The previous yellow color. So you're going to want to have both blending sponges here as you go. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of pink here to the edge in between these two yellows. Oh, thank you, Kathy. It's going to be really fun. This is one of my favorite techniques to do. Okay, so I'm going to blend this out with the yellow. Just smooth those edges on either side. Okay. And now, again, I'm going to use the StampAnniething ink in the matching color, which is going to be our Shocking Pink. This is going to be a little bit more vibrant. I'm just going to take a little bit on the edge of my blending sponge, and I'm just going to make one of the corner edges just kind of pop with that brighter color. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. You want that variation of color, even in the same color families. So just like that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to purple. And for our purple, I'm going to be using Wilted Violet. Oh, hi, Twyla. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be moving on to the purple. Now with the purple, you want to make sure you do not blend it next to the yellow. Otherwise, it's going to turn kind of a brownish color. So when you do the purple, you really want to make sure you stick to the edges of like this pink, because those two colors will go together really well. And we can do some on this main cardstock area without blending it into that yellow. And then we're going to add a little bit more here to the bottom, but not blending into the yellow. We're going to add a little bit of green there, and that will blend into the yellow. Oh, thank you, Katie. Okay, so again here on this edge, we're going to blend a little bit, going into this pink, but making sure not to get into that yellow. It's okay if you have a few little areas of white still where that doesn't connect. Okay, let's see. Now we are going to be moving on to our green, and I'm going to be using the Twisted Citron Distress Oxide. And grab this purple one. Just have to switch out this little blending brush. And we're going to only blend this really into this yellow color. Just like that, and then same thing on this upper edge. You can go kind of down towards the pink, but don't have it cross. And then same thing here. And then a little bit on this edge. Okay. And now, last but not least, we are going to add in some of our blues. I'm going to start with Salty Ocean Distress Oxide. And we are going to fill in just kind of the missing areas and then go a little bit into this purple and the green. And just kind of blend that through those colors. And again, up here into this color, we're slowly building up our night sky. We're going to be going over some of these other colors and starting to build up the blues. We're going to be making mostly this galaxy with blues, and then we'll be adding blacks at the very end. So this is where we start breaking up our little galaxies. I'm just using the same Salty Ocean. It's going to tone down some of those little areas there that we have the color that we already did. But just keep in mind where you wanted your color pops of galaxies. So I want kind of a galaxy here, a galaxy kind of here, and then in this upper corner. So that's what we need to keep in mind as we're blending this. It does look kind of like a tie-dye shirt, and it will keep looking like that as we're going through this. You're gonna be like, oh my goodness, this is too much, too rainbow looking. It's not going to look like a galaxy, but you will see it will for sure. So again, we're just building up the color. Make sure you follow through on these edges. So again, just pulling the color through, letting it go across those edges, blending it down. We really want to just keep a few pops of color. And you can see it's already starting to look more like a night sky the more blue we add into it. And if you take out too much of like I want a little bit more pink there. So I'm just going to use a little bit of that really bright StampAnniething shocking pink and re-add that in just to make that balance with that bright pink there. And then of course a little bit more pink here to this bottom edge. There we go. Thank you. Yes, the galaxy is going to keep coming as we keep adding more. So this is the Salty Ocean again. I'm just re-going over those colors now that I added back in a little bit of pink. And I'm just going to keep layering more colors so this blue will keep building up darker and darker. And in just a moment, we're going to switch to a darker blue even than this, and then we'll go over with our black. There we go. Just blending it down. And then a little bit more here on this edge. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and switch to our darker blue. This is going to be Chipped Sapphire. And as we do this, you're going to see the galaxy even more. So I'm using that same little blending sponge that I just used, that same blue. And I'm going to go back through these blue areas and build up that color to a little bit of a darker tone. And again here. So you guys can see it's a process, but it's so worth it in the end. So again, just building through wherever we did that blue, separating it. Making sure to concentrate more on the edges to keep those really nice contrasts going. And as I blend, I'm getting into smaller and smaller sections between these. So it looks like it's feathering out in color. So it goes like deeper blue, lighter blue as it transitions into our other colors. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Anne. So again, just pulling those colors through. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the black, which is going to be our black soot. And you guys are going to see this is going to really make it pop. Oh, you feel like it's moving? Aw. So again, we're going to go over these areas, deepening them, especially concentrating on these edges. You want to go around at least one time in small circular motions to really build up that night sky, especially along the edges of your space scene. Oh, thank you, Tammy. Oh, I'm happy you're following along. I can't wait to see the galaxies you guys create. And to think this was all just plain white watercolor paper. And then we did inks and blended it up. So you can really create some fun scenes. This would really make a nice, like northern lights too, if you did it kind of an arc. Yes, yes. So again, still letting some of the blue show through. I'm just getting a few of these areas with this darker black soot tone, but you still want to keep that bright blue showing in there. And if you cover a little bit too much of that, you can go back in with your chipped sapphire one more time and just feather along the edges of wherever you had that black soot to tone it down and give a little bit more gradation of color. Oh, thank you, Kevin. That's really sweet of you. Thank you. There we go. Okay, I think that looks good right there as far as the main galaxy part. Now wait for this, you guys. This is going to be really super cool. So now we are going to activate the ink. Since it has Distress ink and StampAnniething ink, wherever we put the StampAnniething ink is not going to move. It's just going to be the Distress ink that's going to be affected. So we're going to get some really fun effects. I'm just using an old toothbrush. I'm going to quick spritz it really fast off camera. Just a few little water droplets. Just like this. We're going to do layering of different techniques. So let it sit for just a moment. And then just pick up those water droplets. And now we're going to do one other thing. I'm going to get just a little palette here, and I'm going to take some craft paint. This is just white acrylic paint. This is like your inexpensive, like 50-cent bottle of acrylic paint. I'm just going to put a little bit in the palette here and water it down. Oh, come on, little thing. There we go. You don't need very much, just like a tiny little dot. And then I'm going to take just some water here with the water dropper. Put it into a separate palette section. And then I'm going to take a paintbrush. Just an old paintbrush that you don't really use. Oh, thank you, Denise. And I'm going to start adding in some of this white acrylic paint into the water because we want it really watered down. Now this extra layer is going to make all of these little stars kind of pop. It's going to look really, really cool. Okay, let me grab a paper really fast. I don't want to, I'll just use the back of my mat. I don't want to get little pieces of paint everywhere. So I'm just going to set this here really quick so I can show you guys. And now I'm just going to take my paintbrush and I'm just going to tap it. Tap it on my finger. Just like that. And just add a few more little stars. And as it gets less paint on it, it's going to be smaller little bursts. And now we can go ahead and remove this. And let me quick clean up this paint because I just spritzed it all over my desk. Hold on. Just quickly, I'm just getting these little water droplets really fast. I usually do this like in an old shoebox or something so it doesn't get everywhere, or do that little technique outside. There we go. And just because it's acrylic paint, if we let it dry, it's going to be hard to get up off the desk. Okay, there we go. So there we go. We've got our awesome little galaxy background there. We're going to let this dry for a few minutes while we are doing our other card layers. And then we're going to do one more layer over this. You'll see that'll be really cool too, to add our extra stars. Okay. So now we are going to move on to just doing our main card base, assembling it, and then we will do the final stenciling on this. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Denise. Okay, so let me move this back. We are going to just take the card base that we cut previously, and I'm going to just adhere that metallic paper. Oh, thank you, Trisha. Thank you. I'm just going to use some dry clear glue on the background of this, or on the back of this, just to quickly adhere it. You could use double-sided tape as well. Just going to line it up into the center of my card base. I'm going to use my little brayer tool. I really love doing this to make sure you get a good adhesion and that the glue doesn't get any little bumps through it. Thank you. Yes, definitely watch the replay. It will always be in our group to rewatch. Okay, now I'm going to take the frame and I'm going to just adhere that next into the center of our metallic portion. And again, just using the dry clear adhesive. Okay, and then just lining this up into the center. And again, using my little brayer tool just to press that down and make sure the glue is nice and even underneath. It keeps it from your, oh, the brayer, it's a speedball one. I think it's used for screen printing. And it was really inexpensive. I think I got this off of Amazon for like $4. And it's just a small size. Okay, so now that we have this bottom base layer ready, looks like this still is a little bit wet, so we're going to let that dry for a tiny bit longer. We can go ahead and start ink blending our planet. So I'm just going to set these aside, but you can see it's going to look really cool when it's all together like that. We're going to set that there. Now we're going to do our planet. And for our planet, you could make it a moon, but I wanted it to be kind of funky looking to go with our really fun background, and I wanted to do some stenciling on it to give it a little bit of a different pattern. So I'm just going to put some more washi tape down here so this doesn't move on us. I'm going to be using the yellow, that same yellow we used, the two yellows, the Squeeze Lemonade Distress ink and the StampAnniething ink in Aspen Gold. And what I'm going to do is just start layering the colors. So for our planet, I'm going to be doing yellow on the top and yellow on the bottom. Let it be kind of white in the middle because I want this to look like it's still glowing. So I'm going to blend from the top towards the bottom, just like this, but still making sure I leave a small white area in the center. So I'm mostly focusing on this edge. And this is with the Distress ink first, then I'll be going over with the StampAnniething ink to really make this edge pop. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing from this opposite side towards the top, still leaving that little white stripe through there. Aw, thank you everyone, thank you. I'm happy you guys like this. I've been wanting to do this tutorial for a while, and I was like, all right, we're doing it today. Okay, so again, just building up that color, just like that. And now we're going to move on to the StampAnniething ink. Remember, when you layer these two different inks, you can get variation of color. So you can see we can get this really bright, vibrant yellow along the edge. And we're going to do the same thing on this bottom edge here. Just building up that color. Just like that. Okay, so now on the sides, we're going to be ink blending some pink. So I'm going to be using that same pink that we used before. What did I do with that brush? Let's see. Oh, there it is. I was like, I just had it. Here it is. And we're going to do the same thing with the Warren lipstick and the Shocking Pink. So again, we're going to build from this corner edge to the center, but still leaving the white in the middle. So just imagine if it's curving around this way, you'd be shading along this side. So you're really not going to shade up very much on this top portion, but you are going to get a little bit of variation on this bottom edge here. And then of course on the other side, we're going to do the same thing, just like that. And this part, I got a little bit too much blended there, so I'm just blending it out with my yellow from previous. So it's always good to keep your other blending brushes right next to you if you need to smooth out a color. Okay, and then a little bit more of that pink there. Now we're going to move to the StampAnniething ink, which was the Shocking Pink, and we're going to do the same thing where we do that little pop of color along the edge, just like that. And then of course this edge too, just blending it out. I'm going to grab that yellow, smooth out. If you get a little bit too far with the pink, blend it back into the color with your yellow. And I'm going to smooth this out here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be adding some texture details to this. So I'm going to be getting one of our stencils. This is a new one. This is, I think this is the Ocean Builder one. I'll link it. I don't remember the exact name of it. I should have looked it up before, but these are from the new ones. So you can see it has this really, really cool border here, like that. And I thought this looks almost like Jupiter, you know, some texture, or Saturn with those little rings. So I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect to add to our planet. And you can see right there how it's long enough that it goes all the way across. I'm going to go ahead and just tape down the edges so it doesn't move on me. Oh yeah, I'm sorry it stresses you out. I love, oh, Beach Builder. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Yes, this is the Beach Builder one. And these are the new stencils that just came out. So if you don't have this one, like this one's probably my favorite. And there's a lot of other really, really cool ones too. Okay, so I'm going to be taking that same pink right there, that shocking pink StampAnniething. This time I'm using just a little blending brush. I'm using a smaller one because I don't want to go too far up off this top corner edge. So I'm going to blend from the side in small circular motions and then pull the color towards the center. Yes, these stencils are must-haves. So if you ordered them, that's awesome. I can't wait till you get them. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Trisha. So again, just pulling this color across the edge. This is going to give us a really cool pattern. Make sure you focus on this corner edge the most and then pull it a little bit across the side to get this pattern across your planet. You could also do the same technique by just cutting out, if you wanted other planets in your sky, you could just do some of the circles or inside circle die cuts of like the Shaker Basics set and then add some other additional planets. So we just did this side, now we're going to do this opposite edge. And let's see, I'm actually going to shift this a little bit because I want a little bit more on the edge. You can see right there it's not really showing through as much, so I'm going to shift this. This way, like that. Re-tape that down, and then pull these little wavy stripes from the opposite direction. Oh, that's exciting. Yes, I love these stencils. I can't wait to see what you guys create with them. There we go. And really focus on those edges a little bit darker. Okay, so now we're going to remove this. And you can see we have this really, really fun, like kind of funky, otherworldly planet. I'm just going to use that same ink along the edges of the pink and on this bottom edge. So here we go, and then we can go ahead and I'm going to just set this aside and we can layer our additional layer of this die, which was this I cut in the metallic, and we're going to layer that right on top. We're going to go ahead and just glue that on. Yes, remember to tag StampAnniething when you share. Oh, that's so silly. I just started watching that, but yep, I have to be careful because I was watching it and then I turned around and I was like, oh wow, apparently I should not be watching this during the day when my kids are awake. So then I very quickly turned it off, and that's now a mommy-only show after the kids are in bed. But yes, I do like it. It's a good show. Oh, thank you, Kathy. Okay, so again, we're just going to layer this right on top of our little planet. And I use liquid adhesive because once you cover up the little, there's some little indents and things, like little details if this is a moon, that makes it really easy to line up. So you can see now we have those 2 layers already. Okay, so now we're going to take our galaxy background, since we're done with this part, and we're going to finish up what I wanted to show you guys here. So again, I'm just going to tape this down so it doesn't shift on us. Actually, I am going to get, see, I'm going to get that same board so when I spray this I don't get on everything again. But I'm using the Sparkle and Shine stencil, and we're going to add a few sparkly stars to this. And I'm just going to spray it on. So I'm just going to put this little mat here that we used for the other part, and I'm going to layer this onto it, just kind of diagonal. This right here is something I made. I just used mica powder and some rubbing alcohol. So you just put that in a little bottle. This is just some iridescent white mica powder. And just shake it up. Hold this down, or you can tape it down. I might actually tape it so I don't have to sit there and hold it. Let's see, what did I do with my washi tape? Oh, thank you, Kathy, thank you. I love adding more and more layers to stuff. I mean, I know sometimes it can get to be too much, but it really does add some fun difference to it. Okay, so just tape that down, and let me get this spray going. Okay. There we go. I'm going to do this to block that. Okay, so now I'm just going to spritz this a couple of times. Ooh, this little top part is, hold on, I just got to clean off the top of this. If you guys don't use this right away, you need to make sure that you clean out the top spray portion, because if you don't, it will make like a big blob on the side of your project, and you do not want that. So I'm just making sure that edge is cleaned off. I'm going to test spray it again. Okay, now it's working. So I'm just spritzing it from the side. Got that. Just spritzing a couple of times. And then again, I'm going to spritz it one more time. Just reshaking this up because it's going on really, really light. Okay. Let's try this again, you guys. Okay, so let's move this. Alright, so I guess that didn't really work quite as well as I thought. It usually does. We're going to just do it a different way. So if your spray is not working, this is part 2 of making it work. Alright, we're going to do it this way. Let me wipe off this stencil really quick. And we are going to use some glitzy gel instead to add our little stars. Okay. Let me just dab up these little ink spots. Okay. So if that doesn't work, which it didn't, usually it's a little bit old. I've left it sitting in there, so that's why that one wasn't spraying really well. But if you make it right away and use it, it works really great. Okay, so I'm just going to do this instead. I'm going to just be using some silver glitter gel. And I'm going to get a palette knife. And just mix it up. And then just add this right over the top. And I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do like this corner edge. And then remove that. So now we have those fun stars there. And then I'm going to do this bottom edge here going up towards the center. So just opposite sides. So just like this. Just right over the stencil. And then remove it. And there we go. Now we have some really fun stars. And then the only thing with this glitter glitzy gel is you have to make sure that you wash it off your stencil right away. If you do not, it will get stuck on there and it won't come off. So I'm just going to quickly throw this in the sink really fast so it doesn't ruin the stencil. Give me just a second. Okay. It also helps to have like a little bucket of water or Ziploc baggie with some water that you can just throw it in while you're doing your project and then come back to it afterwards. So now we have those fun stars on there. You can see them sparkling. I don't know where you found Mindy, but oh, that's really sweet. Thank you guys. Okay, so we're going to let this dry right here, because we just did this with the gel and it takes a few minutes to dry. So before we add these other layers, we are going to go ahead and start coloring. But we do have everything all ready. We have our shoot for the stars, we have our background, we have our main card base. So you guys can see once we add this, it's going to look so awesome when we add our planet and our shoot for the stars. So I'm just going to set this up to the top to let it dry for a moment, and we're going to start coloring our super cute little girl here. All right. Okay, let me grab her. Here she is. So this is Lay's Shoot for the Stars. And I have her little blaster gun here too. And I have so many inks on this table, I feel like if you guys could see my desk, it's like stuff everywhere. It's like the crafting tornado came through. Well, I may have to add that later, so we're going to just start coloring Lay up, and then we will look for her little gun in just a moment. Okay, so here she is, the stamp. And I'm going to zoom in so we can get started. We're going to be doing a really fun, unique... What ink do I use to stamp out the stamps? I use this StampAnniething ink. It's waterproof, water resistant, and it is perfect with Copic markers. And that's what I use to color, primarily. Okay, so I'm just zooming in. Okay, so you guys can see better, and let's get started. So what I do first, whenever I'm coloring an image, is I just trace around their eyes with a mechanical pencil. We are going to do her skin tone. If you guys remember, I have my daughter's little doll as inspiration here. She's this adorable little Barbie girl here. So we're going to be doing her up in those same kind of color tones. All right, let me move this stuff over. Okay. And you've got the stencils there. We're going to start with her skin. And I'm going to be doing her in some purple tones for the skin. So V09 is going to be our first color. Just like I do with my any other skin tone, is I add the details in first and her shadows. So the little details on the ear. Same thing with the opposite side. Under her hairline. And then here too, under this hairline. And again, if you guys miss the colors or the inks, I will be listing all of them after the live. So again, pulling those shadows from the sides. Aw, your cart keeps getting bigger and bigger. I know, that's all of us too, even the design team. There's like so much fun stuff that I want to create with from the Stamp Anything shop. So again, here on her little hands, and on her legs, she has those really cute little boots, knee-high boots here, so we're gonna color those in a fun pattern too. Okay, so we pulled all of our shadow details with V09. Now I'm going to be moving on to V06, which is our next color in the lineup. And I'm just going to go over that previous color, extend it out a little bit further. Just pulling from the edge. And I don't want this purple to be overpowering, so that's why I'm not really flicking out the color yet. I'm just keeping the color tone buildup really to the edges at this point. So again, pulling that color underneath her hairline, on her little neck, and then her hands, and her legs. Just like that. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to V15 right here, and we're going to be doing the same thing, just extending that shadow color, but still making sure we leave a small little white highlight area. And again, pulling that color from the side to blend in with itself. Here on her little ears, which is really just a dot, but you still want that transition of color. And then she has these little cute stars on her forehead, so you just need to be careful to color around those. So I'm kind of using the tip of my marker in those areas. And then pulling that color across the side. And then flicking up towards the center. Okay. And now we're going to move on to V04. And now we're going to be able to start kind of flicking this color towards the center just slightly. So going over the previous color and barely extending it. I'm just moving this as I go to make it easier on myself. So make whatever is comfortable for you to color. And then same thing on this opposite side. Flicking that color towards the center, and then again I'm going to be flipping this way so I can flick this color towards the center from the bottom. Just like that, and then being careful for the stars but still pulling that color through. Oh, thank you, Karen. And then same thing on her legs. Remember, her hands. Even if you have a small area, you still want to add all of those little colors so they all match each other. Oops, and I think I forgot her ears. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to be moving on to V12. And at this point, we're going to start flicking in this color a lot more, because this is almost our final color. And then just being careful I don't get into this eye area. So just kind of tracing around where I drew that little eye spot. And then same thing on this opposite side. And for this flicking part, I'm flicking more from the edge of the previous color towards the center, and then doing a couple layers if I feel like it needs more transition between those two colors. So same thing here, pulling it across her, the top part of her eye and where those little stars are, where her little ear is, and flipping this. Thank you, Ebony, thank you. And again, just flicking this color. So from that feathered edge, you're just grabbing the color and pulling it towards the center. And that's going to help give you that feathered look and a nice consistent blend between those colors. Just like that. Same thing on her legs and her hands and her ears. Okay, so now I'm moving on to BV000, and this is where we are going to finish tracing around her eyes here, pulling this color towards the center and blending it out. Again, like this. Going from the edge and being really careful not to get into where her eyes are. And then doing a few layers to help build up this color. Here too, on her legs, hands, and ears. I'm just going to do a quick blend across this one time across that center highlight area. And you can see I'm doing a couple of layers where the shadow part was before our main highlight of the same color, just building upon itself. To help smooth that out. And then same thing on her legs and her hands and her ears, just pulling through that same blend. And then I'm going to go across it one last time. And now we're just going to go back up the color ladder. So again, since I used that color, my next color was V12. And just pulling from the side, going over the same shadow areas I did previously, just going back up the color ladder. And this is going to give that dimension and depth. So just following from previous, just flicking in those same spots. Here under her little star, on her hands, and her legs. And then moving up to VO4. Just pulling that shadow from the previous. You can see that's really building up and intensifying those colors, so helping it to blend more. V15. And this is really just a dot of this one, since I think we already have a pretty good contrast between those colors. Okay. And then last but not least, V09. See your private messages, please. Kevin, I can't go to that, otherwise it's going to get rid of everybody. But I will look as soon as it's done. I just know if I do, I'm going to like get rid of this live. I'm sorry. Okay. So again, just pulling that shadow. And you can see I just highlighted a few areas. I didn't pull that whole shadow all the way across like I did previously. And then I'm just going to take my colorless blender, which is my 0, and I'm just going to smooth out. You can see I have a little bit of a hard line there where my highlight was, and I was just going to quickly smooth it out a little bit. And then we go over with that same color one more time, that BV000. Just like that. Just one last time. And you can see it smoothed out that harsh line from before. And then just feather it down towards this bottom and feather it the opposite direction. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add our little blush on the edges of her cheeks there. So I'm going to be using RV21. And I'm just going to pull this pink from the edge, just like I do when I do the regular skin tone blush. This works when it's a color like purple. You have to be careful if you're using, like green, that this would not work. You'd have to pick a different blush tone. So just like that, and then same thing from the opposite side. I'm just flicking that color in towards the center, adding her pink blush. Show this cool kind of hot pink rosy cheeks. I was just building up the color a little bit more along the edges since we have this darker purple. You really want this pink to still stand out. And then we're going to smooth out that blush with RV000. Hi Anne, welcome back. So along those edges, I'm just going to do the same thing like I did when I was feathering out the color. I'm just grabbing the very edge of that and then feathering it towards the center. It's going to smooth out those lines. Just like that. And let's see. I'm just taking that purple. I smoothed it out a little bit too much along the edge, so I'm just fixing that. Just dabbing along. There. And then I'm going to just re-go over that little blush spot one more time with my RV21. So if you have a little mess up like that, where you accidentally take off too much color, you can just re-go over the previous color and then re-blend it back out. So that's what I just did there. Now I'm going back over that edge, smoothing it out. Smoothing out that upper edge, just like that. And I'm just re-adding back in my shadow underneath there since I just smoothed that out. This is my V04. Just wanted that color pop on the bottom part of her jaw. Alright, so now we have a really fun purple tone skin. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do her hair, and we want to do that in the blues. So I'm going to start with B39, and I'm going to add my little hairlines, my darkest hairlines. So just like I do with any other hair tone, I'm just adding those from the corner edges, following the shape that's already drawn there for us. Just like that. Same thing here. I'm adding 1 or 2 little lines depending on how big the section is. The section of hair is. And then here too. Pulling those little lines. There we go. And I'm going to flip this and pull these lines this opposite direction. Just like that. And then same thing with these ones. She has this really fun kind of funky hair. So we want to make sure we get in all those little separation lines on these hair areas. And anywhere where another hair piece is overlapping, you're going to add one of those little lines to separate out that hair. And then on this bottom section, just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to be moving on to B05. And again, we're going to go in those same hair areas and we're just going to extend them slightly further, just like that, to build this color, this fun blue hair. And all I'm doing is following the previous lines and making them a little bit longer. And I'm not really worrying about if I am exactly going over that line. If I miss it just slightly, I can just re-pull that line. No big deal. And then same thing from either side. And these little ones. And then I'm going to flip this. I'm going to pull those opposite hair lines the other way. Yes, the blush does show over the purple even. It depends on what colors you're placing it over. But yes, it would definitely work on the purple. A blue, you'd probably want to use more of a purple blush, since it would go purple anyway if you add the pink over blue. So just like that, we pulled our little hair lines from either direction. We can still see there's a highlight of white in the center. And now I'm going to move on to my B04. And again, just like before, just pulling these lines that we previously did while still leaving a small white highlight. And then doing the same thing from this opposite side. And here too. And now we're going to be using our last color in this lineup, which is BG00. And this is where I'm going to connect some of these areas. So I'm just pulling a few lines across the whole hair section and doing a few flicking motions on wherever the shadow area is to blend that out a little bit. So same thing here. Just pulling a few and then going over that main shadow area, and same thing here. And you can build up the color as much as you need to by redoing the same technique, starting from the shadowed area. The more layers you do, the darker it will get, and the less contrast you'll have between the previous color. So just like that. And then last but not least, I like to take either the darkest tone or the second to darkest tone, which was my B05, since we did a lot of blending out. I'm just going to repull just a couple of those shadow lines just to reinforce them and give them that second layer of color. So again, just pulling it right over where we previously drew them. And then again on this side too. There we go. So now we have that funky fun hair. Oh, thank you, Ebony. Thank you, Katie. Okay, so now we can go ahead and add her little tongue, and then we'll start doing some details on her outfit. So I'm just using the RV04. I'm going to pull just like a little half circle on the bottom part of her tongue there. And let's see, I think I'm going to do her stars, probably orange. So I'm going to leave it like that. With the pink, let's do her belt here pink. So while I have this out, I'm just going to add the shadows to any of the sections I want to do as pink. I'm going to do her little arm, cuff part there pink. So just pulling the shadows along the bottom edges. The top part of her little outfit here. And let's see. Maybe we'll do that part silver. Her shoes, let's do her shoes. If I buy this to make a card for my daughter who is studying the planets, is totally qualified as part of our school supplies budget and not my hobby budget, right? That would be really fun. I love that. Okay, so I'm just going to finish pulling these colors. I'm going to do this detail of her boot and the bottom portion of her boot pink. And let's see, probably these little side panels too. Okay, that looks good. So now we're going to be using RV21. And just going over that previous color, blending it towards the top, but still leaving our small white highlight. We're going to do that with all the pink sections. Same thing with her little tongue and her belt. And then her little boots here. Going over the area a couple times if you feel like it needs to be blended out a little bit more between the previous color. And then last but not least for these areas, I'm going to be using RV000. And I'm going to finish blending them out. I'm just going over them quickly, cleaning off my marker in between, going over those areas so I don't actually accidentally transfer any darker tone to our highlights. And same thing on her tongue. And then I'm going to take my darkest, again, RV04. The colors I use is RV04, RV21, and RV000. These are the only three I'm using for the pinks. So I'm just taking the darkest tone here, RV04. I'm going to add just a couple of little dots like I do for texture on just the areas that are shadow that I did before. This is going to break up that shadow line and give some extra interest and detail. Just like that. And same thing on the boots, just like two little dots. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to our silver areas. I'm going to start for silver with C7. You're welcome. And I'm going to do her whole skirt here in this silver tone, pulling that shadow from both sides like we did before. And here too, pulling that down and then around on the edge. Her boots, I'm going to have these silver as well. So pulling that shadow line along the edges. And here too. On either side. Some of these little sections are really small, so you're just barely getting them with the tip of the marker. Same thing there. I think I'm going to do silver here too. I was going to do purple, but because she has that purple skin tone, I don't want it to look like, you know, she's not wearing anything there, that that's her skin. So I'm going to just do this portion silver as well. So again, pulling that color up from either side. Just like that. And then I'm going to be moving on to my C5. And we're just going to extend that color a little bit further, still keeping our main highlights there. Now when you're coloring close to the pink, you want to make sure you're cleaning off your marker in between, because it can pick up some of this pink and pull it into this silver section. So here I'm just kind of flicking along the edge, still maintaining that highlight. Here too, pulling that down and then flicking it back the opposite way. Really focusing on those shadow sides to build up more contrast. And then same thing here on her little boots. Pulling that color towards the center, but mostly focusing on this right edge. And then these little sections, just blending it from the top and bottom. They're really small, so you've got to use the tip of the marker. And then don't forget her little wristbands. Just like that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to C3. Oh, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Trisha. Okay, so again, just pulling that color a little bit further. This is C3, still keeping a small white highlights. I'm barely flicking this color towards the center, feathering out that previous edge. And then same thing on the top of her little outfit. Here on her boots. And really trying to build up this edge color. With silvers, you have a really vibrant, saturated edge to metal. So you want to make sure we try to mimic that in the coloring. Thank you. Okay, then last but not least, we're going to be using C1. And we're going to finish feathering out these areas, but not covering up all the white. You still want some white showing for your highlight, where your brightest shine is on this metallic color. And again, I'm just feathering this color around the edges that I previously did towards that center area. Same thing on her little hands. Just like that. up in the center of her little outfit. And then you're going to take your darkest tone again, your C7, and we're going to add in a few little details. So I'm just going to be adding a line for our metal, so not exactly on the edge. I'm pulling the line on just about, I would say, just almost like a thread, like if you took like a piece of thread and you laid it across the edge. I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh, thank you. I'm just pulling that line straight down. So if here is the edge of our colored area, I would be pulling this line like that down the edge. So then you still have that lighter area. So same thing here. And I'm doing that on all of these, almost like you do with the white gel pen, the highlight, but we're doing the shadow. And this is going to help make this read as metallic. And we're going to do this with the boots too. Just like that. And then her little wristbands are just like a dot of that color. And then of course we're going to be doing just a couple of little texture dots that I always do just along the edges of where I did those lines to kind of break up that harsh line. Just like that. And on her boots too. And then you can see here, since we have on this doll here, we have this kind of chainmail pattern. I'm just going to do that with a mechanical pencil. So you can see it's at kind of an angle. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull some little lines across, like that. And same thing down here. Just keeping to that same pattern. I'm going to have the top part just plain metal, but this bottom portion, that shiny part. And then I'm going to just tilt this to the side and then pull those same lines at a diagonal. And this is just with the mechanical pencil. If you mess this up, you could always erase and then try your lines again. But there you go. Now you have that really fun kind of mesh look. And I'm going to do that a little bit just to this right portion of the boots, just to give more detail there. Okay, so now last but not least, we just need to do her little stars. I think I'm going to go ahead and do those yellow. I'm going to be using Y17 and just adding a couple of dots to this. This is such a small area. You don't want to cover the whole thing. You just really want it to look like the stars are shining and not just totally one solid yellow color. Oh, thank you, Trisha. Thank you, Karen. So again, this is Y06. I'm just adding a couple of dots. So you can see there's still half of these stars are white, but that's what we want. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to add our highlight dots, which I always do with my gel pen. I'm just getting it started. I'm going to add a couple of little highlights to the metal portion. These are just kind of some random little, like a line dot, and just following the shape of that metal section, wherever you would have a highlight. And then a little highlight on the tip of her tongue. And then of course on her eyes, she's going to have these little highlights. And another one right there. Just building up that color. Hi Nikki, welcome. Oh, thank you everyone. Okay, I'm going to use a Posca pen too because I really want the whites in her eyes to pop. So I'm just going to dot right over where the gel pen was with the acrylic Posca pen. And you can see it adds another tone of that highlight. Cool. So now we've got her all colored up. Let me see if I can find her little, I don't see what I did with her little ray gun. I'm sorry guys, otherwise I would have colored it up for her. So I'm probably going to have to stamp that out again later. But we'll just go ahead and assemble the card as is with her without it. Okay, so here we go. We've got our background. This we already adhered. We're going to be using foam tape for our galaxy that we created earlier. You can see the stars are now dry. I'm just using foam tape so this part sits a little bit higher than the rest of the card. I'm just going to add a few pieces onto the back. Just randomly adding them to the corners. And one more here. Okay, I'm just removing this. I'm going to pop this up into the center of our card. Taking off the backing. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to line this right up into the center. Stand up so I get this even. There we go. And press that down. And now I'm going to take our planet that we created. I'm just going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back, liquid adhesive. I'm going to line this up into the center of our card, right along that edge. And then I'm going to take our little sentiment. I'm first going to glue our little mean banner piece down, then I'll glue in our sentiment. Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up right here onto the edge. And press that down. Going to take just a second to adhere because we have those little stars that pop up a little bit. Let's see. Just going to set that on there for just a moment. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a little bit of foam tape so this pops up a little bit higher than the rest. I am going to just add a couple of pieces to the back of this. Like 3 little pieces. All right, let's put this away. I'm going to remove the backing. And we are almost done, you guys. We are just going to be adding this and adding our super cute little girl, and then we are done. So I'm just going to layer this right on top, just like that, shoot for the stars. And now we're going to take our little character, we're going to add her to the back. So I'm just adding some foam tape so she is also raised slightly. I'm going to do 2 layers of foam tape for her. Oh, thank you everyone, thank you. It's really sweet of you guys. I love creating with you guys, so thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so now we have her and we can go ahead and we can just add her right to the front of our card. Let's see, I'm going to add her a little bit more to the side, I think. Well, I guess she's staying there. She's already stuck down, so that's where she is. Just get her even. All right, so there we go. She is all done. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so again, I'm going to go over the products I used, which are available in the shop. Kevin went ahead and linked a bunch of them. And if anything was out of stock, and I believe added them to the shop already. So we have right here, Lay, Shooting for the Stars. Or Lee, however you pronounce her name. Then we also have the Beach Builder stencil that comes, it's a slimline stencil, the new ones. Comes with all of these really fun pieces. I use this part to do our planet down here. I used the banner dies. They come in a whole huge set. I just have them here in this plastic, but there's a bunch of them in the same set. The creator dies and the slimline basic frame. And then, of course, I use the Sparkle and Shine stencil, but that is in my sink being washed. So, all right, everybody, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you all. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I will see you guys all again soon. Bye.